Good morning, Greater Heartland region, KW family, whoever might be joining us today. If you're watching it in the morning time for our Regional Ignite of 2022. And so wherever you might be tuning in from, we're so glad that you're here for Skills to Spark Your Career. My name is Clark Kendall. I serve as a regional technology trainer. And again, whether you're on a regional schedule following on, you've been on this Ignite journey with us, or you maybe Googled how to win with sellers, you maybe happened upon this video. So welcome, excited that you're here. And I'm thrilled to be partnered up today with Brad Korn, Topeka, Kansas. Brad, introduce yourself, please, sir.
Brad Korn, I'm an agent, man. I'm in the trenches with you guys every day. Been selling real estate for 30 years. I quit counting after 2,500 sales. Definitely in the trenches every year. I've got a lot of systems in my business. So a lot of what we talk about today, I may even be referencing systems, automation, how to get leverage. All the things that we're going to talk about today is personal experience. And I'm still out there every day selling. In fact, I think we got like 8 closings this month. So we just keep doing it every day, every month, every year. And I am super excited to be able to share just what I figured out. I mean, I'm the guy that does it wrong probably twice as much as you guys will do it wrong. So I get to help you shortcut those and just learn from my mistakes. And I love to share and watch agents be successful and love and enjoy selling real estate.
That's awesome, Brad. Yeah, I know you're going to bring some value with real world experience, and looking forward to that. And curveball here, I didn't really prep about this, but one of the reasons why I am excited, you were pretty influential, quite influential. I don't know if you remember this. You had taught a business planning clinic in Lake St. Louis, my home market center at the time, and yeah, I got so much value and energy from you in that time that otherwise could be planning, maybe not something we all enjoy, but you brought the energy and passion. So I'm thrilled to be here with you today. So thank you for that. And thank you for what you're doing today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. And I've always respected you as well. So great.
Thanks. Awesome. All right. So yeah, we're going through again, Ignite session 15. We're going to go ahead and jump in the content. Before I jump in, we want to make sure that as you're watching, you have a phenomenal guide to take you through the activities and the content today. So, you might be joining us several options of ways to join us today. You're either following along this regional schedule that we provided for our amazing market centers in the Greater Heartland, right? So if you're watching this live, right, this is June 15th at 10 a.m. And yet you also might be watching this on Facebook or YouTube at a later point. You also might be, if you're live, watching with your market center amongst your peers and with your market center facilitator there. However you're joining in today, I invite you to lean in, be a participant, right? Be an active participant. And we're going to go through some great content and applications. So would welcome, however you're in here, provide some content, comments, questions that you have, ahas, put those in the comment boxes, whether again on Facebook or YouTube. Would love to be able to hear those, and even successes at a later point. If you're watching this, would love that. So that said, you have a participant guide. If you go to ignite.ghregion.com, you click on the button there that says join as a participant. There's going to be a PDF guide there. Now that is all 20 sessions in one guide. We're on session 15 today. So make sure you're on the pages. If you download that whole PDF, that is 15.1. That's session 15, page 1 to follow along. Again, that's ignite.ghregion.com. So on this journey of Ignite, right, we're talking about, we're in the final 4th phase here of transacting the business of getting systems and skills to get to the closing table, right? So on Monday, the 13th, we walk through winning the buyer. So this is going to be a similar process and similar topics, or I guess just similar structure of what we talked about on Monday, but specific to winning the seller. Right. Of course, we have some other pieces that once you do win the buyer and the seller, of how you begin to get them even further to the closing table, but those are for later sessions. But here's our agenda for today. Right. So we're going to walk through definitely understanding, identify who that qualified capital A seller is, and how to follow up for the appointment, get the closing table. You're also going to apply some approaches to request an appointment, right? To get to the table. You're also going to apply the pre-listing criteria to build seller confidence. And of course, you're going to demonstrate your experience in handling seller objections, right? There's going to be seller objections that are there. And so I know we'll get into that as well. But just know that it's going to be our general guide through today and a lot of good tips, tricks, practical experience that Brad's going to bring in. But before we get going, what I want us to do, and this is what we've done every session, we're going to pause, ask yourself, what draws you to this topic? What skill set do you believe you need to develop? What questions do you have? What do you hope to learn today? Or maybe identify a habit to win the seller. So we're going to take 3 minutes, as we've done every single session begin. Pause, write in your guide. What do you hope to take away from the day? We'll be right back.
Hey guys, welcome back. So yes, I hope we can answer all of those. I have actually strong faith that we'll be able to take care of anything that you want to learn from this session. And thank you for taking the time to sit down and write it down and really get in tune with this session so you can take something away. I mean, Clark and I want to see you put this into action, not just sit here and go through another class, but really be able to relay it to where you are in your business. And also keep in mind too that what you may have not written down, you may not know yet, right? You don't know what you don't know. So keep in mind too that this information is available for you, that when you get a seller listing appointment for the first time, if you haven't had one yet and you get one, come back and refresh your memory on all the stuff that we covered today. But we want to give you the tracks so that when that happens, you at least know something is in your head that you remember us talking about that you might be able to use and pull from memory. And then, of course, reference the material. I am all about repetition, repetition, repetition. The reason why I'm actually teaching this section with Clark is because my very first year in real estate, we had a listing boot camp. And this listing boot camp was 8 weeks long. And you could go through it in 8 weeks and learn the stuff for listings. Well, I knew listings were the name of the game, which we'll talk about today, right? So I went to the boot camp over and over. I must have gone a dozen times. In fact, the instructor at that time used to joke and say, if there's a snow day, you guys might as well come on in if you want to learn, because Brad will show up. And he's here. He's been here 8 times, so he'll teach the class. He knows it all inside and out. And I just needed to have it so ingrained in my head so that I wouldn't be freaking out when a seller said, yeah, sure, come meet with me. So anyway, that's where we're coming from today. We want to give you the information, let you know, get it in there so you know it, you hear it. And I will add this too. You're probably going to hear things differently than you've ever heard them before too. You're not going to hear anything new, but you're going to hear it newly. If that helps.
I love that. That's good.
Yes.
Good.
Cool. So yeah, let's jump into it. All right. So, I mean, the first slide here, while leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and the highest net. And of course, that's by Mr. GK, Gary Keller, with the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And the thing is, guys, you get more leverage out of a listing, because when you list a house, every other agent in your marketplace is showing it. And so you can get a buyer from anywhere. When you have a buyer, you can only show them what's available. So you got the limited pool to work with, and it takes time to go out, meet, show, where you've got everybody else doing that as well. So hopefully you can see that. That's an easy one as to why that is your lowest cost and highest net.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
Cool. So as we're going through the process today, we're going to talk about what A sellers are. And again, in this market, what we're looking for are people that are ready to list their house, right? They're really ready, willing, and able. And we're going to tell you in this class in the next 14 days, because we want you to know what an A buyer is. Like, really, are you really talking to sellers and it's like, hey, whenever you're ready, let me know? Or are you being on purpose of saying, now, if the timing was perfect, when would you be ready to have a sign in your yard to have people coming through the front door, right? And if they say, well, we'd be ready in the next week or two, there's your A seller right there. And that needs to become priority.
Yeah, love that. Absolutely. Yeah, and one thing we had shared on the buyers, right? Like, how frequent should follow up be with an A seller?
Oh yeah. So I love that you asked that. So the systems that I have set up, and these are just smart plans, right? If you're in command, it's smart plans. If you have something else, it's campaigns or action plans. If I've got an A seller, I'm going to put them on a plan that they get a call twice a week. And what it does is the smart plan just kicks out in 3 days after I put them in my database and I've tagged them as an A seller. I'm going to start my A seller smart plan. And that smart plan is going to pop up on my dashboard that, hey, it's been 3 days since you put them in, call them. And it's just a quick call. Hey, it was really great chatting with you the other day. Just wanted to see if you had any other questions after I left. Right. And I'll leave that kind of generic. And then it's going to pop up again in 3 days. And it's going to pop up again in 3 days. And I call them twice a week until they're ready to list.
There you go.
Now, the other part about smart plans that are really cool is if it pops up today, and let's just say we're at day 9, okay, they're about ready. They're just working on stuff, but I'm answering any questions they have, directing them or referring them to people that they might need for haul away, trash, fixing up something, whatever it might be. So let's just say we're on day 9, but they called me yesterday. Today's my 9th day. I'm supposed to call them. And they called me yesterday and we talked. I'm done. I just get to mark that done because I just talked to him yesterday. I don't need to pick up the phone and call him again. Right. But I honestly, Clark, what I do is I turn on a campaign, because just think about it. If you had even 2 or 3 A sellers that are ready to do something, trying to keep track of who you talk to last, and it seems like the phone call is the last thing that happens.
Yeah. Memory doesn't serve most of us well, and it definitely not me. So.
Hey, if I have to remember to do it, it ain't gonna happen. I can guarantee you that. All right, this is probably one of my favorite slides, and I'm gonna say it's favorite because, I mean, who hasn't heard of leads, listings, leverage if you're at KW, right? If you've been at KW at any length of time, it's leads, listings, leverage. Leads. I want to explain it a little differently today, and I want you to look at it this way. So leads. I'm going to share with you what Gary Keller said to me that I can hear him saying it right now. Clark, do you wake up in the middle of the night and you can hear Gary's voice and you wonder if he's like in your bedroom? It's like,
there might have been a time or two. Yep.
Talking to me in my head, right? So this is totally Gary Keller's voice, and I can't impersonate him, or I would. But in leads, what he told me, or what I heard, he told everybody, you turn your lead generation volume knob all the way up. And I'm thinking of an old stereo, right? Just crank that volume all the way up. And he said, break the freaking knob off. You turn the lead generation up as far as it'll go and you break the knob off. You can't ever have too many leads in the real estate business. And when I say that, it can be overwhelming with the amount of leads that we have coming in. However, in our industry, we can refer out a whole bunch of stuff too and get paid referral fees. So that's why he says, turn the knob up and break it off. Second part of this, listings. So we already know that listings are your biggest leverage. They're your lowest cost. And especially with our technology today, I mean, you can get so much exposure. The things we had to spend money on back in the dinosaur days of real estate, it was crazy. Writers, signs, call centers, all kinds of crazy stuff. Now we've got the exposure of the internet. But when you get your listing business under control and you can crank your listing business up, make that your focus, right? If that's your one thing when you're building your real estate business, and you can get the most leverage of business incoming commission dollars, if you want to call it, through your listings. And once you can get enough listings that you can live off of half your listings and sock away the income from the other half of the listings, you're going to be kind of busy by that point, right? So your leads will lead to listings. And when you're focused on listings and you get enough business that you're making extra money and have profit left over, you know, sock away 3 months, and that's going to be your salary that you're socking away for the leverage piece that we're about to talk about, right? So when you set up your systems in your listings, for example, smart plans, from the time we list a house until it goes under contract, here's everything that's going to happen. These first 5 things have to happen in day 0. Like there's no delay. These 5 things happen with 0 delay. Then there's maybe a 1-day delay and 3 more things have to happen by the 2nd day it's on the market. And then there's another 1 or 2 day delay and a couple more things have to happen by day 3 or day 4, which might be like enhancing the listing on a website or adding some extra photos, getting some extra exposure, that kind of stuff. But once I build that system in place and I can now handle twice as many listings, then we get to move to leverage. And this is my favorite piece I want to share, and then we'll hear what Clark has to add to that. And that is, when you get to leverage, this is the biggest thing I see. Replace that free time that you get and go back to leads or go back to listings. Those are the only 2 things that I would say replace your leverage time with more leads and more listings. And what it did for me is my team, when I brought a team member in and they were working the buyers and freed that up off my calendar, right? I could go get more listings, and I filled in more listings to the point where we would normally carry 30, 40 listings, active listings at a time, in a different market than we are in while you're probably listening to this. But it doesn't matter where it was. I always wanted to be ahead of the market. If it's a market where it's moving really fast and you can only carry 2 or 3 listings at a time, then I am like pedal to the metal to get 10 active listings as fast as possible so I can keep my inventory going. I never wanted to go to 0. But also what it did, that leverage allowed me to then look for bigger, better opportunities. Maybe I want to bump my price range up on my listings. maybe I want to join a country club and start getting some higher end listings. So when it goes back to leads, that leverage frees you up to go find more leads and more listings so that you can get more leverage, and you just kind of stay in that circle. A lot of times people bring in leverage and then just have people do all the stuff they hate to do, and then they keep doing the non-productive stuff that they like to do, and they call that leverage. But again, if you give somebody all the stuff you hate to do, they're not going to stay with you very long because it's not fun.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, Brad, I love that. I remember being as a newer agent, I didn't get a chance to go to Mega Camp, which is actually coming up here soon. And I remember in the market center, my market center hosted a mega agent panel. And while they talked about their ahas for Mega Camp, it was great, but there was also a mastermind that this mega agent got to go to. And I remember them saying that with all the mega agents sitting in front of Gary and have a mastermind, the mega agent asked, "Hey, would you like to know what Gary shared with us? Like what he really drew the conversation towards?" And he just drew the triangle. And my understanding, I haven't had the opportunity to be in that room in that mastermind session with Gary like that, but it's a continual revisit of this triangle, this model. It's a fundamental practice and structure that is always having the opportunity to develop or master it. Right? It never goes away, right? Because there's always going to be new facets and new markets and new sales tactics or new technology. It all comes back to this.
Yep. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's leads, listings, leverage, the 3 L's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, Brad, I was gonna say if we could go touch into like, all right, we know listings are one of the big L's there. What's so awesome about listings? Kind of touching on
again, these are in your guide, and I just made a couple of notes here. So seller listings mean marketing opportunities. And I will tell you what a marketing opportunity is the consumers and the public seeing your name, your brand, your logo, seeing you everywhere. And I remember even just like open house opportunities, right? Gary said, if you're going to do an open house, why wouldn't you put up like 10 signs everywhere the week before the open house? And man, I was on that like a second, because what it is that listing gives us marketing opportunity to have our signs everywhere. And that's just that subliminal kind of, when people think of you and think of real estate, they're like, man, you are everywhere, right? A billboard once that I put up, it was down for 3 years, and people were like, man, I see your billboard all the time. It hasn't been up for 3 years. So do not forget the marketing piece of a listing is your leverage of your name on a sign. Heck, Clark, we have reflective real estate signs that we put out front that headlights hit at night, day and night, because it gets us 24/7 exposure versus just sunrise to sunset. And then if you're in a market where maybe your competitors have a really black, dark sign, I always tell sellers, I jokingly say like, yeah, we got a reflective sign. I mean, I want to get you the most exposure possible to your house, right? That's my job, is get you most exposure. I mean, there's other companies, if they're pretty black. I mean, if you didn't see it at night, you might run over it. So, again, that's the competitive nature of me, right?
I love that.
Go ahead. Anything to add on that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, what stands out here, and as a newer agent, something that kind of felt a little daunting was this idea of per hour compensation. Right. I mean, my focus as a new agent is like, I just need a client. Right. And once I got that client, okay, I need the next one and the next one. I didn't have an understanding of this per hour compensation. So if you see that, no, it's okay not to be aware of that per hour compensation. And yet that's just something you can develop over time. And as your listing's focused, you're going to really see a huge ROI on your per hour compensation, or what you're actually worth, or how much money you're making per hour through listings. Especially in this market, I mean, listings are always relevant, right? I mean, it's the reason why the triangle is always relevant, because listings are our way to take market share. And yet it's never been more important to be able to focus on listings. Is how many stories have you heard, Brad, or even just with buyers we're currently working with, multiple showings and multiple offers we're submitting just because of listing inventory, the lack that we have. right? So that per hour compensation, it's been minimized when working with buyers in this market, and it's been absolutely maximized when we work with listings.
Yeah, and I'll add one little thing on there. So what I figured out over time is that there's probably, and this is for everybody that hasn't had a ton of sales yet, you're going to figure out there's about 10 hours per closing. From the time you start working with a client until the contract closes, there's about 10 hours of work in there. So, which actually, when you think about that, it's like, wow, if I have 2 closings a month, then really I've really worked for 20 hours this month. There's more room for more leads and more listings, right? Before you need that leverage.
Yeah.
And
that was,
go
I
ahead.
was going to say, that was your sister, just to, so I clear, your time spent with the seller, really intentional 10 hours of time.
Yeah, it's 1 hour for the listing appointment, probably an hour to get all the paperwork put together, maybe an hour to put all the stuff on the websites and get it in. There's probably an hour over the time of maybe reconsultations or asking for price changes if you have them, and maybe reviewing the offers and all that stuff. And then an hour to sit at the closing table. There's about 5 hours invested in a listing. There might be 10 hours invested in a buyer because you got to drive to wherever the property is to show the property. And that's if you show them 3 to 5 properties, right? So that seller leverage that you get, that dollar per hour goes up because it actually is about half the time. Well, think about it. You got leverage. You've got every other agent in your marketplace that is showing the listing versus on the other side where you're showing whatever listings are available. You can only show what's available, but you have, in my market, 10,000 realtors that are now showing my listing. So that's your leverage piece for sure.
I love that. And those buyer agents are working for you, even though they're not your actual employee, right? That's awesome. Love that.
Yep. And I love this last one too. Properly marketed seller listings bring you more business. And this was just a goal I had set in my business. And I don't remember who got me to set it, but it was all obviously somebody, an agent, somebody mentioned on a panel. And it was that if I took a listing and they attract buyers, our goal was to always get 3 buyers from every listing.
Ooh,
3 buyers from every listing. In fact, so much to the point, Clark, that when I would take a listing in a fast selling market, and before my systems, like we do everything instant on, we do everything at once and it's on. If I had to go back to the office after I got paperwork and put the sign in the yard and it sold before I got back, or I had calls waiting for me when I got back to the office, I used to get mad. Like, dang, I didn't get my 800 number up there. I didn't get my website posted. I didn't get any buyers off of it yet. And we did all this work to get that appointment, to get them to choose us, to get the listing on, and we didn't capitalize on it to get the buyers. So I moved everything to the forefront to where all the marketing happens within an hour of me leaving a listing. So that's another reason why I love sharing the seller side. I call it my instant on program. We're going to talk about values here in a little bit too. And it's my instant on program. And I tell the seller, when I leave your house, you will be live with showings within an hour. And I mean, if we priced it right and we did everything right, there will be a showing within an hour of that thing hitting the market. So we do our instant on listing program to get the most exposure out of it. And that was driven by setting a absolute goal that I need to get 3 buyers from every listing.
Love that. Love it. Yeah. Sound like you thought through standards well. Love that. That's all right.
All right, the seller service circle. This just kind of goes through all the different things that need to happen with a seller, from the lead conversion, the pre-listing packet, the listing consultation, servicing and marketing that listing, getting the exposure. How are you handling the offers? And when you get some crazy 20, 30 offers, do you have a good streamlined system, contract to close? And then the big one is the post-close system too. What happens after the closing? I mean, we've heard the horror story. I think Keller Williams is changing a lot of the old things we used to hear about where people don't remember who their agent is. I think more and more people remember who their agent is if they're a KW agent, just because we talk about all this stuff all the time.
Sure do. Absolutely sure do. Yeah, absolutely. Goodness, Brad, we kind of already went through a good bulk of stuff, right? Some good content here. I would take a quick pause. So in your little booklets there, you got a spot to write down some ahas. If you're in the market center, shout them out, share them with your closest person there, a peer, what your ahas are. Again, ahas can be agents helping agents. Don't just keep it to yourself. You got some goodies to share with other folks. So share it there in your market center, and we'll be back in 3 minutes.
All right, guys, welcome back. Did you really write down some ahas? Did you really like take what we've just been talking about and actually write something down? Let me challenge you a little bit, right? What are the things that you do when we looked at that circle? What are the things anywhere in there? Just pick 1, 2, or 3 things that you can say that you're going to offer that seller that your competitors cannot say. Let me say that again. This is how you determine your value, and it's how you'll give yourself the confidence to charge whatever commission you're charging to get them to pick you. And that is, list out in your ahas 3 things that you grabbed onto here that you could single yourself out and say, I do this very well. It only needs to be 2 or 3 things. And if you can make it be something that your competitor can't say, like, for example, my aha isn't, oh, I could put it on MLS. No. Did you write down the aha that when we go, we do instant on listing? How many of your competitors can say you're going to have an instant on listing? Meaning we throw it in MLS, but then it goes out to realtor.com and it's on all the sites and it's on the showing thing all at once. We've done the pictures, we've done the measurements all at that moment, and you have a showing within an hour. my competitors can't say that, right?
Yeah.
The other one, just simple, like the extra exposure on the websites. If you add extra photos where you can, some of the sites out there allow you to add extra photos, extra descriptions beyond what MLS does. So when you say that, like if your value proposition is, hey, we do extra information to bump you up the search engines, and we have our technology. I mean, our technology is so far ahead of everybody else. We get you up higher on the search engine, so you're on that first page more often with the extra stuff that we do. That could be a value proposition. Your competitors won't say it. They just won't.
All right, Brad, that being the tech trainer, I'd be remiss not to mention it because I did just have an aha. So thank you for that challenge. So one value add you could add to your sellers. We have our app and websites that's provided no additional cost for you as a KW agent, right? Did you know that if you add your listing, once that listing becomes active, right, and it's in the system, that you can actually add it to your featured listings, and that anybody that has downloaded your app, anybody that's downloaded your specific branded app, and if you're the listing agent, it automatically shows up as an agent pick on the map. Like it's in red bold that your listing is right there on the map as an agent pick. Right. So a great value proposition could be, hey, for everybody in working with me, my entire database that has downloaded my app. And if you have metrics on that, share it. Right. If you've got hundreds of people that are on that, your listing is going to be right in front and center of all their eyes to connect you with more buyers. Really awesome. I think a lot of people miss that piece of featured listings in your app. If you have questions about that, ask your Market Center tech trainer. They're ready to help. So that was an aha for me. Thank you for that, Brad.
You betcha. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
Always learning. Cool. So let's talk about getting the appointment. So responding right away to lead inquiries. Okay, I'm just going to give you my personal experience over 30 years and a lot, thousands and thousands of leads. Here's what we used to hear. And Clark, you've probably been around long enough. You heard this. We used to have this. Get back to them in 2 minutes or less. Then it was like, you got to get back to them in a minute or less. While they're deciding between a minute and 30 seconds, I already knew the answer. 2 seconds or less. Get back to people 2 seconds or less. And here's what I want everybody to really hear from this. It's responding to lead inquiries. If they call and they leave a message, to them every minute, and especially if your voicemail says, your call is very important to me, I'll be returning calls as soon as possible. Well, as soon as possible was right when I called, right? Secondly, anything past 5 minutes or 10 minutes seems like an eternity, and there's too many real estate agents around. So anytime you have a lead, I'm going to tell you it's 2 seconds or less if you want to capture them and convert them into an appointment. They will appreciate that.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I've got another, this is a fun one. So I get to show you real world stuff here. So getting valid, complete information. I mean, these are all in our Ignite forms. And this is my intake form that I have. I mean, this form has not changed in 30 years. Oh, am I upside down? There we go. Should do it the right way. Oh, that's my buyer one. Sorry. Oh, I'll show you the right one. But it's still an intake form. And that was blue for buyer. And this is yellow for seller. So we have these on yellow forms so I can find them anytime a lead comes in or a call comes in and somebody goes, yeah, I was just curious what my house is worth. Boom, we're ready to close this deal. I'm just looking for a yellow sheet. I grab it and I just run through the process. Let me get your information. How did you hear of us, first of all? Right. And I've got all my questions that I need and I just flow through the chart. So when this says get all their contact information, a couple of key things that I want 2 phone numbers for them, because I always call to confirm my appointment before I come. In fact, when you've done this long enough and you have the confidence that you have that they're going to meet with you, you can actually give them an out. Like I love giving people outs. It's like, hey, if you're super busy today, I mean, we could reschedule this. This is what I do full time, right? That might be my script. And they're always like, no, tonight's good. We're going to both be there, because that's asking to make sure both decision makers would be there. I mean, you could ask the question too, if you got a good connection, hey, if everything's right, how soon do you want your sign in yard with people coming through? And if they say, well, we're ready to go. Okay, so I know that I'm going to get a lot more information here. but I'm going to get all the information about their house. I'd verify 2 phone numbers because I'll call and confirm the appointment. So if you get voicemail at one, you call the next one. I also text them and email them. And then down here at the bottom, do you know about what your mortgage is? Right. So when I get complete information on a listing, I want to go there with a net sheet. I want to, because, we'll talk more about scripts as we get to the end possibly, but it's like, what do you guys want to get at the end of the day? Oh, we want $500,000 for a house. We don't want to give it away. No, I know, but you have a $350,000 loan and there's closing costs. If I handed you a check today, what's that amount need to be?
Yeah.
So if I have their payoff or their loan balance, then I can figure that net sheet out.
Love that. Love it. Love it. Cool.
But yeah, I do set an appointment time and date as soon as possible. However, I did learn early on not to be a Pop-Tart realtor because this is a little bonus tip, mega mastery level tip for you guys. If you're newer to real estate, and even if you're not newer to real estate, this could be if you've been doing real estate for a while. What would blow people away is I would always schedule my appointment for 12 to 24 hours out, because I wanted to drive by their house and take a picture of the front of the house and put it on a flyer.
Ooh,
and I'm telling you what, if you want to secure a listing appointment when you're sitting down with the seller, they agreed to meet with you. And when you're talking about marketing, you just pull out this 1-page flyer that has their address at the top with a picture of their house. And the bulleted list is the things they told me about their house. Tell me about your house. Tell me is there anything kind of cool about your house? So I actually create a flyer for the house before I've listed their house, and it's ready to go. They freak out. Like, they don't even hear what I say for the next 2 minutes while that's sitting on the table.
So awesome.
That's a bonus one for everybody today.
Yeah. When that Brad said, you probably don't cheap out and just grab a Google Street image either. Right. Cause I mean, I'm thinking my Google Street image is the previous homeowners and everything else. So driving by lets you know that you've already laid eyes on the property and you're assessing how to best help them. I love that. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep. All right, cool. So this just kind of, these studies are out there all the time, and it tells us what they want. So when you're looking at your ahas, what aha did you write down when we gave you the break? And what is your value proposition that you want to bring to the table, and how do they fit in these things? Because these are what the sellers are looking for. And I just made a couple of quick notes here on helping the seller market their home to potential buyers, right? So one of the things that we did here, here's your secret value proposition. I'm going to give you another bonus one.
Right.
Most MLSs, you can go in and put in a reverse search. Like, you could put a potential property in there. I'm looking for, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, whatever. And that's the listing I'm going to go on. But there's a reverse search for that you can actually see what other agents in your marketplace have put in that buyer's criteria that would match that listing that you're going to. We used to just print that page and take it. Now, you don't leave this because it's got a list of 25 people that are looking for their house. When you guys can say, hey, we've already got a list of 25 people that are looking for a home like yours, when it goes on the market, we invite these agents first thing to come to your house. So that's another thing why I stress so importantly how critical co-op agent relationships are with the agents in your marketplace. Because if you can call the busier agents or here's another thing that we've been doing in our team meetings lately is we're talking about new listings and new buyer needs and listing needs, right? So if you get into that meeting every week that you have it, or whatever day that meeting is, and you're writing down what those buyer needs are, you could actually take a list to any listing appointment with you and go, these are agents in my office. These are the buyers they're working for and what they're looking for. It doesn't even have to be from this week, but keep a list of buyers that are looking for that type of house, and tell a seller you already have a dozen, half a dozen, 2 dozen people to contact about their house.
Oh, I love that.
And then I'll give you another little fun script on this last one. Help a seller find ways to fix up their home. So now this is just Brad Korn, just Korn Team scripts. My HGTV script is staging. What we want to do is get your house down to where there's no more than 1 or 2 things on every wall, shelf, or flat surface. No more than 1 or 2 things on every wall, shelf, and flat surface. That means your counters. You're just going to set everything in the cabinets. No more than 1 or 2 things out. And then the second part of that, is you don't want anything that's out to be personal items, like personal photos. I mean, heck, if you can hide the paper towel roll and just put it under the sink, or your toothbrushes in your bathroom, because what we found is, one, we want the buyer to see themselves moving
Mhm.
into the house, not to be in a stranger's house.
Right.
And then the second part of it is, we don't want them looking at how cute your kids are, or that, if you even know what precious moments are, like that precious moments collection, or that deer head collection, right? We're selling your house, so we want them to picture themselves living here. And the last thing I'll tell you on that part is, we know how to keep the buyers in your house longer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because they're blowing through
Mm.
houses, really fast. We help you stage the house so that they stay in your house, even if it's just 1 or 2 minute longer, that they will remember your house over the competition. That's another value proposition, by the way.
I love that script. We know how to keep buyers in your house longer. That
Yep,
is good. Good.
yep.
Love it.
So yeah, there's your key points that you can develop your value proposition around. And then obviously building trust is probably one of the biggest thing. They're entrusting us with the sale of their home, and equity. I'll tell you this. I treat every single client as if they're my mother, my brother, my aunt, my uncle. And when you choose the right agent, we'll use a little bold scripts here. When
Mhm.
you choose the right agent, we don't negotiate contracts for a couple $100 here and a couple $100 there, right?
Mhm.
It's thousands here, thousands there. And in this market right now, it's 10,000 here, 10,000 there. So it's a pretty big deal when you choose which agent you're going to work with. And we have all those negotiating, we have negotiating classes and strategies all the time at our company.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
good. Love that. Love it. Yeah,
All
and
right.
yeah,
Yeah, go
Brad.
ahead.
Yeah, Brad. I was going to say here, we did just to kind of a touch base on these. We're not going to go back through these 7 close the appointment. We went over these in depth with Win with a Buyer. And the
Yep.
great news here is the same tactics
Yep.
that work with buyers. At least these are, irregardless of what type of client you're working with, these approaches, these tactics will work with buyers and sellers. So if you haven't seen that yet, you want to understand some great scripts or tactics to close for the appointment, these 7 are here. There's also on, just a reminder, page 101 of the shift book. All right, there's 10. There's a bonus 3 there. 10 closes, 10 classic closes that work. And so I guarantee you'll find one other, whether it's these 7 that you see in the Win with Buyers, or, well, I should say page 100 and 101 shift, you'll find one, probably a few that just feel right up your alley, and you can go with confidence there.
Well, and I'm going to remind them of one, and I'm going to give them one more really cool bonus mastery level script that's worked for me. All right. When I say mastery level, I'm saying, guys, I get the results I want when I use it. Okay? So once you master the script, you should get the results that you want. But the one I want to remind you of is, when it comes to the net sheet, after we've kind of gone through the neighborhood, the stats, the actives and the solds, and we kind of got the price range down, before I pull out the net sheet, I just say, let me ask you a real question here. What do you need to net at the end of the day? And usually they'll say the sale price. They don't want to give it away. Like, if I handed you a check right now after everything, what does that amount need to be? And I'm telling you, 90% of the time, they don't have this number figured out for you. They've got all their stuff planned that they're going to keep you under control. And when you throw this one out, they'll usually kind of go back to the price a couple of times. I'm after everything. And if they can't come up with it, I say, what are you using the money for? Well, we want to put some money down on the new house, and we want to pay off the car, and we want to pay off. Okay, how much does that need? They'll say 220,000 would be awesome. Great. My net sheet is usually 230 to 240. It's I don't know why it works that way, but it does, because I got them off a price and I got them on net. The last thing I'll tell you is, towards the very end, if you're watching this and you've been on a listing appointment before and they say, thank you this information is amazing, we need to discuss it and talk about it and figure out, we just want to process it. Here's your best script. I call this the hook, line, and sinker, because if they're going to list, I'm going to hook, line, and I'm sinking, or bringing them in, right? And that is the only thing I want to leave you with today, is between now and when that sign goes in your yard, There are buyers out there that are going to wait. They're waiting for houses to hit the market. Yours might be their dream home. I don't know, but they're from now until then, those people may settle for second best and buy another house. And we'll only have the buyers on the market at the time the sign goes in your yard. So what a lot of people are concerned about, guys, is that if they put the sign in the yard now and they sold their house tomorrow, they may not be ready. But then I say, if I know what you're concerned about, if I put the sign in your yard tonight and I bring you offers tonight and they want to move in tomorrow or next week, what would you guys say? And they'll say, well, we couldn't move out in a week. Okay, so you can say no to those buyers, but you didn't miss them. See what I'm saying? So that's a fun script to play with.
Yeah, well, and Brad, that's why I jumped to this slide here on, hey, when an objection comes up, even if it's a passive objection, which is what you exactly just communicated, right? Oh, thanks so much for information. We'll think about it. It's not a hard no. It's a nice, friendly way. Well, us here in the Midwest, we're really good at that, right? And yet it's still an objection, right? Because you haven't signed the paperwork. And so you handle it. I love that handler.
Yep. And just like we've always learned in Bold, you know, anytime there's an objection, I mean, even if it's, let's just say it's a commission one. All right. Here's one thing I do. Actually, this is another thing that I would say that this will be your ongoing project after this session today. Grab yourself like one of those little pocket flip notebooks that you can buy at Walmart or whatever. They fit in a pocket. You know what I'm talking about? The little college ruled line and you flip. I used to create an objection book that anytime I would leave an appointment, I would open it up. If I did not walk out with the listing, there was something they said that I was paying attention to figure out what the scripts were so I could find the script to beat that next time. And that's how I started taking all the objections out to where when I go on a listing appointment, I'm pretty much listing it most of the time. So I would just write down the objections and then you can go back and find, like, pull up the script book, you know, pull out the shift book. All this stuff's in all of our stuff that you can then find 3 scripts that you could have used instead of that. So anytime a client gives you an answer that doesn't get the result you wanted, get it in your objection book and accumulate those for about a year or two. So the commission objection, for example, I just eliminated that one. It's gone from the books because I track the objections where they say, well, another guy said he would do it for 6, right? So that's an objection. And now you do need to handle that. And you don't handle it by saying, well, I can do it for that too, or 5 or whatever it is. I didn't mean to throw an amount out there. It doesn't matter what it is. I remember when I used to go against people that would charge 1.5%, right? And I would take them at a little bit higher than probably what you charge for commission. And I would win that listing because it's like, so why is that a concern? Well, we want to save money. Okay. Well, so if you want to save money, is that the same as make more money? Well, yeah, we want to make more money. Okay, now I get to change the whole conversation. So, yeah.
Brad, a question here because we're getting ready to get into the pre-listing packet after some ahas, and yet still in this portion of getting the appointment. What would be common objections that you've either heard either on the phone in your follow up, right? Because you call it every other day, or oftentimes maybe some common objections of actually getting to the listing table.
The appointment, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, the first one is to say, so if you guys were going to move, where are you moving to, right? So let's just say a call comes in. We're thinking about wondering what our house is worth. Great. What's your value or what's your time? What's your calendar look like? You guys want to meet on Thursday at 1 or Friday at 2? It's like, well, we're just kind of getting an idea. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah.
So that's great. So let's do this. When can I just run by, get through the house and see the inside and check it out? I mean, really, it takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but that will really help you see the market, where you are in the market and what you could get.
Love that.
So, you know, and it costs, another one is it costs nothing to meet with me, right? And if I wasted your time, I'll give you double your money back. That's just me having fun.
Well, you gotta have fun with it. I love that.
So yeah, just pay attention to what they're saying. And if you don't know what to say, I mean, obviously at the time you do the best you can with whatever, objection you can, or objection handler you can come up with. Write that down though, and go back and find the scripts. That's what I did, is I just kept finding the best scripts and I kept using them until they got the results that I wanted. So anyway, let's write down some ahas and put this stuff into action. What'd you guys get out of this last section?
All right. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
Welcome back, guys. I hope you really are taking some time to write down a few things. That's where this moves from your screen here into your world. And let me tell you, you guys have the best opportunity on the planet to create unlimited income, unlimited lifestyle, and help so many people, accomplish the American dream, owning a property, owning a house, right? So really write down those ahas and put them into action. Oh, this is one of my favorites. I mean, this is all old school millionaire real estate agent stuff here. When Gary Keller wrote the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, they broke that out into 11 more detailed courses and sections and expanded the book to 11 3-hour days is what it used to be. I used to drive to Austin from Kansas City about every other month for day-long session, 3-day sessions, and just absorbing all this. So this one is one of my favorite, and it's about moving from E to P. See, everybody here right now, the fact that you're even in real estate or thinking of getting in real estate or really starting a real estate career makes you pretty entrepreneurial. But what we call that is it's your drive. Your natural drive will carry you so far. And natural drives are different from person to person because, why is it some agents get in and they just explode, right? One of my first recruits in Dallas, Texas, that put me down as a sponsor, he did 8 or 9 million his first year in real estate and did 19 million his second year in real estate. So that entrepreneurial drive, and he just was on the phone every day talking to people, creating relationships, going on appointments. But there is a point where even if you're newer and you're kind of, I call the E part kind of the winging it. It's our natural kind of, we're just going to wing it, right? So if you go on, a good way to track it would be is if we know other statistics that 1 out of 4 or 3 out of 4 sellers will talk to one agent and list their house. It's around 70 something percent, right?
Yeah.
So if you go on 4 listing appointments and you don't take home 3 listings from that, then your entrepreneurial drive is not getting the listing done. That's where you got to get on purpose. You got to go back to that objection book. You got to find the scripts that will actually work to get the results that you want. So the P part, what I love what Gary talks about, it's kind of the triangles. You know, you got one sitting here like this, and the one that's sitting on its side and it's all tilty. Everybody likes to get creative, and they're trying to figure out the new way to do things. But really, the base stuff, leads, listings, leverage, and the systems that we talk about even in this class are the base. And you build a strong foundation around those. You haven't really earned the right to change the models yet, right? So until you're using the models, you don't need to change them. We're trying to shortcut it. And we're not trying. It is the shortcut. So the on purpose part is to say, okay, I need to be better at listing. So now I'm going to follow the listing model. I'm going to follow the questions. I'm going to follow the intake form. I'm going to start getting this information. I'm going to get their payoff information. I'm going to run their net sheet before I go. So just that E to P is if you're not getting the results you want, it's time to get on purpose and look for those that are doing it.
I love that. Yeah, we got a lot of new. It seems like the new ideas are coming faster and faster. So,
they are. And if they promise to, like, we can get you 10 seller listings next month, just sign up here and give us your checkbook. Guys, I've been doing this 30 years. I haven't seen that work yet. Or if every single top agent is signed up for it, which you would see us, because we'd be telling everybody, right? If we're all on it, then it works. I don't know what that is yet. There's not anything we're all on yet. Anyway.
True.
So yeah, pre-listing packets. Obviously, if this is a part in your business, when you come from relationships, this isn't as critical of a piece. However, it really does shortcut your process when you go to meet with the seller. It lets them get prepared. It's the pre-listing packet. It allows you to go by and take a picture of their house, like I said earlier, and leave the pre-listing packet. But now you got a picture of the house and you're putting the marketing stuff together. There is so much information. You don't need to create a book for them, right? What I would suggest is if you wrote down some ahas from the last few sessions that we've had you do that, and you're starting to see something that you can use as your 1, 2, or 3 unique propositions, your value proposition to the client, something about you that makes you different from anybody else they would talk to. Those are the things that I want to go through all the information and just find the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things that really anchor my value. And then you can do some filler stuff in there too. But I'm telling you, people don't sit down and read. We used to do pre-listing packets and thought it would take our listing appointment down to 15 minutes. So we'd show up and go, all right, did you get everything filled out and read in the book? And they're like, we haven't had time. So it's there for a certain personality of person that you do want to have it. However, 75% of the personalities don't care to read it. So just keep that all in mind. They won't read it all. They're going to read what stands out and what's important, or what you single out for them to look at.
Yeah.
So I think, Clark, for this, I mean, we don't necessarily want to go through all the stuff in a pre-listing packet. I would really suggest you go through and pull out the stuff to make it yours and make it match your value propositions.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Yeah, and there'll be some portions here the exercises to go through, right? In this pre-listing packet, there is a pre-listing packet in Command and Designs, right? So you can absolutely go through there and customize it, and you have a few little tips and tricks there, or I guess recommendations in your participant guide. And yet to we could spend another hour or two refining that and how to do that in command. Reach out to your market center tech trainer to get familiarized with it, and heck, maybe even co-teach. Like once you get this down, co-teach it with your market center tech trainer. Would love to be able to do that. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and shift over.
I'm glad you said that. You know, when I was teaching 8x8 and 33 touch from pages 133 through 148 of MREA, I taught it in the class every week, or in our off market center every week. And there would literally be days where nobody would show up. But I remember Gary saying there would be days nobody would show up, and I still taught the class because I was actually learning it. And I'm like, that's what I'm doing. So I just taught it over and over and over again. And then I would even have my attendees come in, and I'd say, hey, we're not moving on to day number 2 until you've done day number 1. We're just going to keep teaching day number 1 over and over and over until you do that. All right, so we're processing through here to the listing appointment. That's what everybody's been waiting for, right? So getting that signed listing agreement. So here's the thing. When you go to a listing appointment and you're sitting down with the seller, what you want to do is come across as the professional, the person that knows what they're doing, even if you may not know everything that you're doing yet. See, we all had to go on our first listing appointment. We all had to go on our second listing appointment, and we all had to go on our third listing appointment. So as you go on more listing appointments, your confidence level is going to go up. So I usually challenge people when they're nervous about listing appointments. I always jokingly say, but not really jokingly say, I always say, all right, so call 3 sellers and tell them you're going to list their house for free. Right? I mean, I'm just saying, if you're really struggling with what to do at a listing appointment and you can't get any listing appointments, start calling sellers and say, hey, it's your lucky day. I'm doing my next 3 listings for free. When you want to meet? And they got to go through the listing presentation. It'll be an investment in your business, right?
That's true, man. I love that.
You won't do too many of them. Yeah, you won't do too many of them for free, and you'll figure it out pretty quick. Yeah, but you'll get a lot of listing appointments.
I love that.
So after you're going through, and I love where this even says, you know, sharing your price recommendation. I love to involve the clients in that, and and I've heard more and more agents talking about, you know, it's not bringing 3 similar properties like an appraisal value and averaging the 3 and giving it a value. In fact, my value proposition is I will use that against my competition because they are still using that. I'll say, you know, I can show you whichever 3 properties like an appraiser does, right? Because the consumers think the appraisal value is the value of the home. So I want to take that out of the equation too. So one of the conversations is that, you know, an appraiser, they find 3 properties, they average it to 3 and give it a value, and that's what they think your house is worth. But the thing is they have the contract price there. So they had the answer to the equation, and they had to fill in the equation. What you have to be careful of in this market, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that agents that use a 3 property sample are just pulling the 3 they want you to see. Maybe they throw the 3 highest sales in to get you to think your house will sell for more. Or in some markets, when the markets were crashing, they were using the 3 lower sales, or they used the high, the low, and the middle, right? And if you're an above average house, you could be underpricing your home. So there's way more to it than that. It's supply and demand. How many houses are on the market, and how many are currently under contract in this market? And then you can look at the solds for real closed values, and you'll see a gap between those because the market's appreciating, and you can show them all that. So I usually say, you know, now based on this, where do you guys think? Because if they are trying to be the most expensive thing on the market, they'll see that they're the most expensive thing on the market, and they'll see that none of those are pending right now, and they'll pull it back down without you having to tell them they have to.
Love that.
So
good.
Yep. And the expectations, here's another good one. If you don't use this one in your listing presentations, we'll know if we hit the market right. Like, I'm just helping you interpret the current market conditions. We'll know if we hit the right price when you hit the market, because if you get 20 showings and 10 offers, we hit the market right. If you get 10 showings and no offers, we might have missed the market. Or if you get no showings, that means we missed the market. Because remember, I said instant on, you'll have showings instantly. Well, if I price the property right, we have showings within the first few hours of it hitting the market, and they usually go pretty strong. So I can confidently say I can tell you out of 2,500 sold properties, I've never had one not be shown in a week. So I think we really missed the mark on this one. I mess up on them all the time too, and it's sometimes we're playing the market, sometimes it's what they have to get. But setting the expectations is if you get a lot of showings and no offers, you're overpriced. If you get no showings in this market, you're overpriced. If you get a lot of showings and you get a lot of offers, you nailed it right.
There you go. Love it. Love it. Yeah, Brad, I know this next portion here, we kind of talk through having that listing packet. Brad, we talked about the pre-listing packet and also in Command, right? Here's an opportunity to have a really polished, and you actually have 4 options for listing presentations in Command. So the nice thing is there's questions that are there. They're based on the needs analysis and pricing and marketing, right? And you get to choose the look that you want there. So again, reach out to your Market Center Tech Trainer or go to answers.kw.com. There's articles, step-by-step walkthroughs. Couldn't be any easier to show you how to do it. And once you get it, offer to co-teach it with your MCTT. That'd be super awesome. Love to be able to see that. So
yeah, Command is so detailed, guys. There's so much stuff already at our fingertips, and you can get lost in it. So here's what I'm going to say. It's okay. Get lost in it. Play in it, right? Hopefully what you took out of this session is what your value propositions are, your key things, and you can find those things in there and pull those to the forefront, because there's just everything's in there. Everything. There's, what do we have? 180,000 agents that have contributed to this thing. So yeah,
keeps growing. Yeah.
All right. So what do we got next? Oh, affirmations. You got to love affirmations, right? So guys, here's the thing. What you tell yourself is what your cells hear, right? And for anybody, whether you've just been on one, haven't been on a listing appointment yet, been on a few, and even in today's market, let me tell you, experienced agents, we sit there and talk to each other. And it's like, man, I don't know. Am I even pricing things right anymore? You just get this second guessing. So affirmations are great for everyone, right? So let's say these, right? Here it is. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation, and they will choose me to represent them to sell their house as I sell their house, right? So let's say the affirmations. Talk to yourself. Say this 3-4 times. All right. Let's do it again. You want to pause it? You want us to read it with them? What do you want to do, Clark?
Yeah, I would just challenge here. I did make a recommendation because we had a buyer affirmation on this past Monday. We're in session 14. Practice it yourself, especially before listing appointments. On the way driving, where are you visiting these affirmations? Where are they visible in your world? So it's not just, oh, wait, I do remember this affirmation. Let me read it to make sure I have it. Then it's not really an affirmation for you. You have to rethink it, right? This is something that becomes a part of your world, and it's who you are, right? And you're telling this truth about yourself. So whatever your system is, whether it's that app that I mentioned, Think Up, it's awesome to revisit those, or put it on your mirror, maybe on your office, whatever it is, revisit it and get it down. So.
I would challenge guys right now, if you have not grabbed a screenshot of this, right, on your phone, when you're going through these, you should have 14 of them probably. Grab the affirmations from everything so far, and even just label at the top: buyer, seller, goals, money, whatever it might be. And whenever you're at that point in your business, hopefully they're like, while you're going through Ignite, especially, that you have those in a section where you can see them and keep them in front of you, so that you can hit that when you get a seller call. You can see that affirmation and go, I am knowledgeable and I am caring and I'm the best agent for these clients, right?
Yeah.
Man, that's what it's here for. It really is.
So I'll add a little note here, Brad, and we walk through this with buyers, and yet as you're getting leads and people are raising their hands saying, yes, I'm looking to transact, make a real estate decision. As soon as there leads, you aware of that, we're putting that as an opportunity in Command. That's your pipeline, so you know what future business is coming. Once you have the appointment, you have that appointment phase, make sure you're updating your opportunities pipeline. Right, this is your business. This is a tool as a business owner to know what potential transactions are at what stage in that journey, And so make sure you're updating that as you go along. It's one of the best business owner tools you can use. So just want to add that.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Great. So next thing is just the walkthroughs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you show up at the listing appointment, and again, I got to bring back the bold, when you're knocking on that door, you're at the house. Even if it's virtual, if you're doing some walkthroughs virtually and all that other stuff, it is, hey, we had a 3:00 appointment and it's 3:00, right? So come in, and I usually I want them to release, because what they are like, the salesperson's coming over and everything's like all tense, and I got to break that ice. So I usually just open with this, Clark. I say, hey, why don't we do this? Can you take me on the grand tour? And they usually laugh about the grand tour of their house, right? Not everybody will. Some people are like, yeah, it is a grand tour, right? Yeah, right. Most of the houses I go into in my market, grand tours are funny. No. So why don't you take me on the grand tour and just kind of show me around real quick, and then we'll go set stuff down. And you can do it either way, what works, where you can go set your stuff down and then go walk through. I find it good to go through. Now, the only thing about the walkthrough is just pay attention to what's going on. You're looking for things in the house. You can, I say, oh, that's nice, that's cool, but I don't go like, oh my gosh, you're going to get $500,000 for that little feature. So just compliment, notice things, and you can always ask about stuff too. So I noticed that little stain in the sink. Oh yeah, God, I knew he was going to see that. But I'd rather address it there, and because in a market where there's a shortage of homes, it's not going to be as big of a concern. However, in my brain, I know the things that I picked apart. I can say, now in this market right now, a lot of the little things that I saw, if we had 10 houses we were competing with, we'd be having a totally different conversation. You might not have to worry about some of those things in this particular market. So the walkthrough is just real quick and fast, and it's just to see the layout of the rooms. You're not really giving them pricing opinions or giving them staging tips. Then it's for you. Here's what I use it for. By the time I get the walkthrough, I know if I'm in an average house, an above average house, or a below average house. And when I look at what's on the market and sold, I'm looking at the high, low, and average. And then when I look at what's in the neighborhood for that, and I look at what's in the area for that age home and floor plan, I know what the high, low, and average is. And if I'm in an above average house, then I know I can push the price a little bit above the average price. If I'm in a below average house that has a lot of work to do, I'm going to pull it down a little bit, but the area might pull it back up. So it allows me to be flexible in that price range and be able to give them a range and see what they say as we have that conversation.
Yeah, I love that. So Brad, what I heard in there, it's not it's important, yet it's not the whole intent of that listing appointment. So quick, to the point, not going on for an hour of the grand tour.
Nope, it is quick.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Do there.
Oh my gosh, the handwritten note. This is my life. Handwritten notes are my life. There's nothing better than dropping a note in the mail. Now I'm talking about being prepared. What is your system, right? My system is, as I'm getting in the car, driving out of the driveway, I write the note. Thank you so much for taking time to meet, taking time out of your busy schedule to meet and tour your home. It was truly a pleasure to meet you. Look forward to keeping in touch. And that's going in the mailbox on my way home or back to the office or wherever I'm going, because the mail time is going to be 2 to 3 days. So it's already got a delay. And if you try to remember to do it later, and then it's tomorrow, and then it loses its effect, and I'm ready to list the house, between now and when that sign goes in the yard, you're missing buyers. By the time I get done with that script, they're like, yeah, we're selling, right? Because I'll just say, if you're absolutely moving, now's better than later. And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, we are. Okay, let's do some final staging. I'll come back tomorrow and shoot pictures or do whatever, right? So that thank you note needs to show up quickly, and I just keep them with me everywhere, and I write them, and I don't use the words I, me, or my in the note. I reference them, their house, their situation. It's always fun to see somebody moving up or whatever it might be, right? But it's instant, it's fast. I want it in their mailbox within a couple of days, mail time from the time I left.
So, Brad, now we're kind of coming almost to a close here, and yet the next portion here does speak to, we would have the opportunity if we were all in person, right? We were providing this value in person to go kind of through the actual listing agreement, right? Which would be applicable for your market, whichever board forms that you use. And so one, you would have the opportunity to go through that listing agreement, that your actual one that you utilize. So question here, I think, would be one, have you presently received that? If you're a brand new agent, have you seen the listing agreement? And secondly, can you speak to it? If there were any questions at that listing appointment, could you speak and not that you're an attorney or that you're going to write anything into there, but speak to what that actually means, how it benefits them as a seller, and of course, how it benefits that working relationship to make it a win-win there. All right. So we're not going to be able to, of course, hand out any of those listing agreements here. And yet it is an important piece because that's kind of the whole intent, right? Brad, I mean, to be able to have a client that we're working with. Yet anything to add or anything that you've come across, Brad, and once presenting that official document, which can feel really weighty and kind of like the point of like the moment of truth for newer agents.
Yeah. Well, it's probably best that you're doing this right now while you're watching Ignite, because once you start filling in contracts, it's just fill in the blanks and go, baby. So what I might suggest is take your phone, read one of the paragraphs, and then just say in the phone how you would explain that to somebody, right? The summary version. Yeah. And do that for each one. Now, this could actually turn out to be something you can grab these off your phone and use those for your people to click if they did have questions about it. So just read it. What would you say that summarizes, right? So for the inspection period or something like that. So for the inspection period, that's the time for the buyer to come into the property, hire an inspector if they'd like. They do have the right to cancel the contract. They have the right to ask for different things to be fixed and all that stuff. So that's a real varying part of the contract, but it's like a page and a half on our contract. So just read that and then say a summary in your phone of what that is if you were telling somebody about it. And that's probably the best way to do it. And I tell you this from personal experience, because we've been selling real estate for a long time. And I remember contracts change about every year. And my wife heard me say a summary of something. And she goes, "Do you know what that paragraph says?" I was like, "Well, what? It hasn't changed that much." And I looked and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that was a little different." So it's something to do every single year, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then that, right? I mean, go to the broker classes that are offered there, the updates, whether it's at their team meetings or actually, I'm sure there's things on the schedule, right? This is important. It's an important piece. You're committing. This is where you're the fiduciary, and in writing a legal document to fulfill those terms. So that's awesome, Brad. We're essentially wrapped up here.
All right, this was fun.
Man. Yeah, it sure was. Yeah. I guess the last kind of point here. Our final ahas, give an opportunity for them to kind of write those down.
Man, I really sincerely hope that you guys had a good session, and that you're really taking time to write stuff down. It's the information by itself is not powerful. Knowledge is power when you put it into action.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And share it with somebody. Who else needs to hear what you just heard? Right? Whatever you gathered, if it's an agent in your market center or somebody that you know is just also working on their license, or my goodness, maybe we're all through, well, at least here in the state of Missouri, we're going through CE, right? So you might be taking classes in person with other agents that are struggling to find business, right? Share this good stuff with them because it's not just for you. I promise you that. There's other people that need to hear it. So Brad, before I let you go, I am going to just share here, right? If you're joining in the market center, and amongst your colleagues there that are growing their businesses, we're going to shift, probably take a break, right? Grab some lunch if you're on the schedule here. Take a lunch break or a little break, and then jump into the daily success activities where you get the role play, those lead follow-up conversations, the Ford model, role playing that, actually getting the chance to make the calls together, writing your handwritten notes, 10 of those a day, and also adding the 10 to the database and doing the social media daily 10-5-1 there. So we'll again, this will be next for you all that are in the market center doing this. And yet, if you are watching this by yourself and you're not in the market center, ask yourself again, yes, you're writing a house. Yet what's going on the rest of the day where you actually get to go find clients to be able to have more listing presentations? This is your opportunity there. So we're going to allow the market centers to take that. Yet, Brad, you and I, we're off the value clock here. We're wrapped up. So I really, really appreciate the expertise. And again, every time I get to connect with you, you're adding something of value, some script. Wrote it down, right? Several things I wrote down today, especially script around keeping buyers in the house longer, or we know what buyers will keep buyers in the house longer. I thought that was great. There's so much more there. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's fun hanging out.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to wrap up today. We have, goodness, in our final 5 sessions. So we'll do the next session of working with buyers and sellers post the agreement. What does that world look like? That'll be session 16. And so we hope to see you then. Take care.